Hey folks, welcome to Sport Fishing on the Fly on the Bench. Today I'm going to tie for you my fresh molt dragonfly. This pattern I recently came up with, and I fished it up in the Kamloops area, did very well with it, so I thought I'd share it with you. Make sure you have these materials ready before you tie the fly. For hook I'm using a Firehole stick 839, it's a size 10 3x long streamer. For thread I'm using 18-aught lime nano silk. You could use 12-aught, 8-aught, it doesn't matter, I've just got this handy so I'm using it. For the body, I'm using Guard Hair Chenille in Fluorescent Green Ryak by Semperfli. For the eyes, I'm just using some black plastic eyes. For the rib, I'm using monofilament. For the legs, I'm using Whiting Brahma Hen in olive. And for the thorax, I'm using a combination of Senyos Fusion Dub in tobacco and Arizona Simi Seal in chartreuse, and I've mixed them 50-50. So yeah, I was just fishing up in Kamloops this past few days, and this fly was unbelievable. Worked really well. I just tied it just before we left, so I haven't fished on a bunch of trips, but it definitely worked. And being as dragonflies, I think they molt like 12 times. They have a 4-year life cycle or something, so I mean they do a lot of molting. So I imagine it. They're always kind of around in that stage. I have a friend who always fishes that color, that lime green color. Dragonflies like Gompus and does really well with them. So I'm just going to take my thread back up to the front here. I'm going to tie my eyes in. Just take a little pair of eyes here and I'm going to just figure eight them on. I'm about a hook length back from the eye, so quite far forward. You just want a little space there. Get these figure eight on here. So I'm just going to put a little drop of resin here by Semperfli on my eyes, just to hold them a little bit stronger. I would normally use Zap-A-Gap, but I don't have any this time. Should be good. Next I'm going to tie in my monofilament. And I'm basically only using this just to keep the fly a little bit more durable. Tie that right down. I like to go just around that bend with it. The body, take a piece of the Guard Hair Chenille. As you can see, it's got little pieces of straggle almost coming out of it. It looks very alive in the water. Unbelievable. Really nice material. I'm just going to tie it in here at the back. Give it some tight wraps. And then bring my thread forward to about the 80% point on the hook, 20-80. And I'm just going to wrap it up the hook. And yeah, it's just, we were fishing it on, I was fishing on a clear intermediate line as well as a type 3 and doing well on both lines with it. Sort of fishing by the weeds. It's always a good color, this chartreuse lime color. Fish just like it. I read recently that it really shows like in the blue-green spectrum, like when it's underwater, so the fish can really see it well. And the little guard hair sparkles in it just make it seem so alive. It's the only color I've tried of this material. I have a few different colors of it, and now I'm anxious to try more colors, different patterns. Apparently if you brush it out with a little brush or a toothbrush or something, it makes it really nice too. I'm not going to do that in this pattern though. Trim that off. I just wound my rib up there. I counter wound it against the opposite way from which I wound the chenille, just to hold it a little bit stronger. Now I'm going to take a feather from the Brahma hen, and I'm just going to peel off the bottom here. I don't need it. I'm just going to take probably about 6 or 8 little pieces here, and I'm going to go about halfway back. I don't have very many legs, just a couple. Just tie them on one side, and I'm going to tie them on the other side. Same thing. Looks good. It's tricky trying to trim that out of there with those eyes. I'm just going to try and wind over top of it with my thread. There we go. I'm going to take my wax, just wax my nano silk before I apply the dubbing. Goes on a little bit easier. It's a little bit coarse, this dubbing. So you just want to do very, very small pieces at a time, because it's a very thin dubbing noodle. I've also tied it with like a peacock colored thorax. The naturals don't really have that color of a thorax, so I sort of changed it a little bit. So I'm just figurating around the eyes. I'm going to trim it after, so don't worry if it's scruffy. It's fine. Trim that one off right now. And then I'm just going to sweep everything back here. Make sure I got enough dubbing there. And whip finish. Whoop. Give it a couple. Snip that off. And now I'm just going to take my scissors and trim this dubbing slightly so it's not sticking out. It'll probably get scruffy again. I usually always take scissors to the lake with me so I can trim things that I need to trim. It's a really good thing to have in your kit. They come in handy. And the last step, I didn't mention in the materials, but I have one of these pens by Artist Loft, and it's in brown. And I'm just going to give it just a few markings, because the naturals sort of have just a little bit of brown in them. I just dotted it on there a little bit. Not very much. Just sort of drew lines. That's good. And that's it, my fresh Molted Dragonfly. Pretty scruffy looking, but I'm telling you it works. Thanks for joining me on this edition of On the Bench at Sport Fishing on the Fly. Take care, everyone. Tight lines.